Aha. Very nice entrance hall. I didn't really appreciate it yesterday. And it smells lovely as well. So after yesterday's trials and tribulations and loss of food bag on the train, today I'm haunted by owls. The hostel's somewhere up there, somewhere. As you may hear in my voice, walkie-talkie, croaky traveller, as a bit of a, yes, a bit of a chesty, throaty, nasally cough about him. You do have a breakfast option at the hostel, which costs 17 zloty, and laundry is only 14 zloty as well, which is a very good deal. There are a couple of places where you could grab a few takeaway boxes of pierogi, little pancakes, things of that sort, but nowhere big enough where you could actually go in and sit down and have a breakfast close by in the neighbourhood. If you're like me, you've already got your breakfast with you, so that isn't an issue. And I think I've discovered the easiest way to get to the centre, having come out of the hostel. We've got a tram line right here, should you need it. Otherwise, this is Karmelitska Street, and we can just walk the length of Karmelitska Street and it will take us down to the edge of the old town itself. A few of my roommates, interesting characters. We've got Norman from Pakistan, a guy from India who arrived with Indian rupees, struggled to find a place in Krakow to change Indian rupees, got fleeced by a taxi driver, which was sad to hear, but perhaps no surprise. And we've got a couple of, I think we've got a couple of Ukrainian guys in the dorm, as well as the two English lads, one from Ekney, the other from Hempstead. And it all went off pretty smoothly and calmly. I guess that's an advantage of staying in somebody's home when they call it an apartment. If it's actually their home and they're in residence in a small space, any noise at night is going to be jumped on. It's a bit ironic because last night the adult son of the owner, who evidently lives with his parents in one small room in the apartment, I don't know how that works, he decided to come to the kitchen and have a word with the Polish lady who was chatting to me there to ask, can we keep the noise down? Which was strange because we were just talking in a normal voice. And then this morning, when he's got up, he decides to play MTV music on the TV in the kitchen. So anybody still sleeping in the rooms across the corridor from the kitchen is going to be woken abruptly with Big in Japan by Alphaville. But of course, it's one rule for one and one rule for another, it seems. And when you stay in somebody's house, if you stay in somebody's home, this place is a sort of hostel, like a couch surfing option. I don't know how it's set up really, and the owner himself is all over the place in terms of whether he's being friendly or sort of almost hostile to the guests. I think we've all met people who decided to set up a hostel thinking it's a good money spinner, good money earner, but they can't handle the practicality of providing hospitality to strangers. Yeah, so one minute he wants to be your best friend, the next minute he's very unhappy and fractious because one girl just wanted to take her laptop onto the balcony. She was having an actual oral exam online and she needed some privacy in order to do that, and suddenly that became a huge issue for him. One minute he was helping her, with closing the door to the balcony, and the next minute something, just a switch flipped in his head and it was drama. Kind of reminded me of a guy I met in Luang Prabang in Laos. Very similar sort of hothead one minute, super friendly the next, and you don't know what kind of triggers change his emotions, but my God, must be difficult to be married to, and possibly can only have some kind of business to provide an income, because nobody would actually employ them when they've got personalities like that. That would be my guess anyway. But this isn't a psychology class, is it? It's walkie-talkie, samurai motorbike talkie. Or is it? It looks kind of samurai, but then you realise it's not actually a motorbike, is it? It's a sort of lady's shopping trolley on wheels. Anyway, a fun little ride for somebody. Yes, Warsaw is a big, huge, sprawling place where you need to identify your targets, where you want to explore, and might need, very understandably, to use public transport to get to some of them at a distance from the centre. Whereas Krakow is just an easy, you can basically just turn left, turn right, go anywhere, everywhere, walk around the streets, and unless you're deliberately heading away from the old town, then you're going to find charming spots. And I don't think it necessarily needs a whole lot of planning or even description from me as to what you should and shouldn't do. If you're only here for a couple of days, as I am, just walking around admiring the architecture, taking it all in again if you've been here before, or enjoying it for the first time. Now this is interesting. This is the Cantor Exchange place, which was recommended by the owner's son. The Indian guy in my dorm was asking me about a place to change his Indian rupees, and of course I didn't have a clue. So I was looking online trying to help him. And then when the son came into the kitchen, we asked him, and he suggested this place. I'll leave you to check the rates if you're in the neighbourhood. And here we are. This looks very familiar. Let's try and make sense of where we are, shall we? We are here, and I've just walked down Karmelitska Street, and you'll see off to the right, that's the Stefan Batorego Street where the hostel is. So when you look at the bigger picture with the train station over here, it looks oh so easy. At least I didn't get fleeced for 130 zloty, ouch, which is what the poor Indian had to pay the taxi driver for a how long ride. I don't know which way he took him, but from the train station to the hostel, when you know where it is going to be a 20-minute walk. Once you're in the old town, by crikey, where do you even begin? It really is an embarrassment of riches. And that's just the old town without the castle to the south, and without going further into the old Jewish area of Kazimierz. So there's a whole lot to do, a whole load of museums, as you can probably see, and way too much for a 2-day break. So we're just going to take it casual, take it easy. There is a botanical garden, if that might suit some people who can't cope with the summer heat when they're here, or just want to get away from the crowds which are likely to be all around their central market, Rynek Główny. This video is sponsored by Hall's Extra Strong Mints. It's not really, but it should be, because if I'm going to get through it, it will be only because of Hall's Extra Strong Mints. A free plug, and if you can get your hands on some, they're the best menthol sweets that I think I can find on the market in the countries where I find myself roaming. Just looking at some adapters here for the guy who's in need of an adapter at this telephone service place. But no, I'm not going to recommend anything specifically, just in case it blows up, or who knows what adapters might do. Thinking of the guy who's brought his computer from Pakistan, and I've got a universal adapter, but no, not for his particular plug. I couldn't help him out last night. I could help the Indian guy with his phone charging this morning, but I couldn't help the Pakistan guy who had a very interesting arrangement for his plug, which is nothing like I've seen before. Cute. Nice that the drivers are actually stopping at pedestrian crossings. It doesn't do any harm to thank people. It's only going to encourage them, I think, to be mindful of pedestrians all the more, I think, if you're actually courteous enough to raise a hand, smile and mouth thank you, so long as it doesn't look to the driver as though you're saying something else. So I'm heading back to the ranch. The sweet definitely is helping, but I'm going to put on a long sleeve shirt, because otherwise, although my arms are a little bit tanned already from the summer sun, at 30 degrees, and who knows what the afternoon might be, I think it's prudent to put on a long sleeve shirt if you're me. I don't burn. I tend to just go browner and browner. But I do have a thing about not wanting to get skin cancer, you know. Call me a bit of an old fuddy-duddy for feeling that way. But I think it may be a sort of hangover from when I went to Australia and New Zealand the first time. I was just so informed about the dangers over there that it became natural for me to walk around in the heat and sunshine, even on cloudy days, with full-length sleeves. And I've become a bit slack back in Europe, but of course you can get skin cancer just about anywhere in the world, I suppose, and you need to take care of your skin, regardless of your great age, as in my case. Just looking for their turn off back to the hostel. And another nice little place here, the Sangam Indian restaurant. Nice and cool in this courtyard here. Tandoori oven items. 36 swati for a chicken tikka. So that would be $9 US money. Not going to break the bank. A lamb biryani would be €10.
What else can I recognize? A mutton rogan josh. £9 English money.
Location not far from the hostel. I'd say the Sangam restaurant looks a distinct possibility. Back kind of where I was. Nozhovnikov Bastion. Something which looks like that. A pointy tower. Maybe that's where the Nozhovnikov Bastion used to be, but no sign of it at the moment. Although I could continue walking around this leafy space, maybe this is the point that fate determines I should head in toward the old town a little bit. And it rewards me with a view of that dirty, great, whacking, big church. Full of them in Krakow, of course. Well, looky here. What have we got? Załek Strajkera. Evidently some kind of college place. One of the oldest locations in Krakow's old town. Right here, Jagiellonska. Oh, I'm going to struggle, aren't I? Jagiellonska. We're at the intersection with Święta Ani, ulica Święta Ani and ulica Jagiellonska. Not only one of the oldest parts of the old town, but also the location of the original Jewish settlers in Krakow before they got pushed on and forced to relocate, move their homes up here, further along Jagiellonska. You may have read, you may have heard, you may just happen to know, when the Mongols were sweeping through Europe back in the 1200s, when they reached Krakow, they did what Mongols do, or what they used to do back in the day: decimated the place, leveled it, destroyed everything. They did more besides, which we won't go into. That meant the town had to be replanned, rebuilt when it was safe to do so. And what we are left with today is the layout, at least, a 200 metre by 200 metre central marketplace. The old marketplace, the Stary Rynek, looks very attractive, of course, and many of the old houses around the Rynek, behind the facades, will still have the original layout of buildings from 13th, 14th century, whereas some of the facades have been changed, as often happens through time when fashions change and people suddenly want to build in the Baroque or neoclassical style, as an example. Here we are at the southwestern corner, ulica Wiślna. I don't know what on earth is going on there, but it doesn't look good, does it? The long, thin building behind the tower is the Cloth Hall, which houses some excellent museums. Looks as though there's a lot of works going on there. The old town isn't quite as bad as I thought it might be. I feared the worst, and maybe that's not a bad point to come from, because then anything not quite as crowded and hectic is a bonus. If you're a backpacker, you won't be eating and drinking here. If you're what they call a flash packer, then maybe you will, because you've only come for a short weekend break and you've got money to burn. And that Wizz Air flight to Katowice cost you nothing. I was chatting to a couple of lads telling me, yeah, they got fleeced for 170 zloty. Ouch. A minibus taking the people from Katowice airport to central Katowice near the train station, where they then got their train to bring them to Krakow. So basically, the cost of the airport to city centre shuttle cost them more than the flight with Wizz Air, which was a shame. There is a city bus which you can use, which I never considered to be cheap, but that's because I'm tight, I suppose, or I don't like spending money, or I think, well, hang on, if I just spent under £1 or under €1 to get to Warsaw airport from the city centre, why am I being asked to pay nearly 10 times as much to get to Katowice airport, even though the distance is probably double compared to Warsaw? The price is tenfold, and that really didn't suit me at all. I remember using Katowice's bus service and grudgingly having to pay because there was no other cheaper option. Certainly a taxi would be even more expensive. But this was some kind of shuttle service they paid up for, and yeah, as a result, yeah, they really got taken to the cleaners. Currency exchange, as always, the prices they're quoting, you might think, oh, okay, I'm getting quite a decent deal there, but the numbers, you got to check what they represent. They can say no commission, but what the numbers might mean is what they're buying at compared to what they're selling at. So it could be that you're thinking you're getting a great deal for your currency, but that rate only applies to if they were selling you back that currency. So if you want to change your US dollars, you might be seduced by an attractive rate. Then when you get the money, you might think, hey, hang on a minute, what happened here? And then you realize you've been suckered. Generally speaking, try and take a look at the buy and the sell rates. And if there's hopefully less than 5% difference between those two rates, you're not getting the worst deal in the city. There we can get a better view of the cloth hall, the Sukinica. Nice place if you want to go in and buy souvenirs as well. All your gold and amber. Textiles. Lots of small market traders, but, you know, upmarket-ish, we have to admit. You see there the exchange rate difference between the buy and the sell. Yeah, don't even bother.